In this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips to drastically improve your environment. And I promise you, if you actually implement these 3 things, give yourself 30 days to recalibrate, readjust to your new environment, I promise you your life will change. What's going on, everybody? My name is Joshua Sparks. This YouTube channel here is all about how to master your identity and master your reality. In today's video, I'm going to give you 3 ways to drastically improve your environment so that you can transform that life of yours, right? So that you can become the version of yourself that you are after, right? I truly, truly believe that our environment is one of the most important things about cultivating success or cultivating this life that we're after, right? If you do not have the right environment around you, it doesn't matter how hard you work or how positive you are. It doesn't matter if your environment is constantly pulling you and dragging you down, you're gonna struggle way more than you need to, okay? Now, of course, your environment isn't going to make or break you, right? You can be in an amazing environment, right? But if you have zero work ethic, or if you have, an identity that is attached to being here, you will never get to here, just purely based off of your environment being positive or being good or being supportive, right? But so much of success in any area is about stacking the odds in your favor, okay? So if you do have an amazing work ethic, or you do have an amazing mindset, you may as well make sure that you have a supportive environment, right? So I don't think I need to go any further into why it's important to improve your environment. I think most of us can agree that, your environment plays a big part in your life, in your success, and where you are at right now, right? You hear it all the time. You are a product of your environment, okay? So it's very, very important that we talk about this. Now, the first tip that I have for you in order to drastically improve your environment is to consciously create relationships around you, okay? Now, so many of us, we have a lot of friends, we have people in our lives that we hang out with and we spend time with. But my question for you is, how many of those people did you actively try to cultivate a relationship with, right? Chances are many of the people that you surround yourself with to date, chances are you kind of just fell into being friends with them. You met them at school, you met them at work, or you met them through a mutual friend, right? And sure, of course, you guys obviously have something in common, otherwise you wouldn't be friends, right? I'm not here to say that your friends aren't your friends, but what I am saying is that chances are they're not somebody that you actively pursued to be friends with, meaning they're not somebody that you looked at and said, that's somebody I want to be like, or that's somebody I want to be around because I want them to have an impact on my life. It's more maybe you were at work together, you're at school together, and you guys had some jokes and you guys got along and you guys had a similar vibe, and maybe you do have some similar interests, or maybe you were on a sports team together, right? But chances are most of your friends, or at least some of them, are not people that you really aspire to be like, right? And let that sink in. If the people that you keep closest to you aren't where you want to be, then in a way they're already kind of dragging you down. If you're here and you're trying to get here, but your friend is here, right? You hear it all the time. You are the average of the 5 people you hang out with most. Now, I know this can be a sensitive subject for a lot of people, right? Because some of us have friends that we've had for 15, 20 plus years, right? So do I. I have friends that I've had for almost 20 years now, right? And I do believe that it's important to have friendships like that, right? That maybe started at a young age, right? It's enjoyable. It's fun. You get to talk about old times. There's so many beautiful things that come along with that. But you also have to be aware of when it's time to start creating new relationships outside of that, right? Because what got you here isn't going to get you there. So if your friends that you've had your entire life, you think played a role into getting you here, You have to understand that if you want to transform your life and transform your identity and become a new, better version of yourself, chances are you're either going to have to include some new friends within your circle, improve your environment, and or most likely cut some people out. And I don't mean that in a hurtful, harmful, disrespectful way, but I mean distance, right? Distance yourself from people that are no longer serving you, that are not aligned with your vision of who you want to be, of where you want to be, of what you want to be doing. Okay? And if you don't take this radical responsibility to do this, I promise you, you will struggle more than you need to. You will constantly be fighting to transform your identity, but really, it's going to be way harder than it needs to be if you have a circle around you that's trying to keep you at this other vibration, right? And that's really how it works, okay? So whether it's consciously or subconsciously, we all do this, right? But the people in your life right now, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, they will hold you to the identity of you that they know you as, to the version of you that they've always known you as. So if you're somebody who's always been late in the past, right? It doesn't matter if for the last 3 months you've been really working on that and you've been on time every single time. A lot of times, the people that know us as being late are going to continue to label you as the person who's always late, despite the fact that for the last 3 months you haven't been late once. Okay? Now that's a very silly surface level, example of how that works, but I promise you it works in almost every single way, right? People have an identity of us in their head. They have a vision of us in their head, and they want to keep us to that, right? Because that's who they're friends with. So if you change too much, if you're no longer that person, then they no longer have the same relationship with you, right? And so, in a way it comes out of a place of love because they love you so much and they just want to make sure that you're in their life forever, right? But unfortunately, it's up to you to take responsibility to notice the patterns and notice the relationships in which that are not supporting you anymore, okay? And it's okay. I think that's the biggest thing that I can get across to you right now is it's okay. It's okay to not be friends with the person that you were friends with in 4th grade, right? It's okay to distance yourself from your family member who is constantly labeling you as something that you no longer resonate with, right? It's okay to outgrow relationships. It's okay to move on. Nobody ever said that, if you start a friendship today that you have to be friends with them for the rest of your life. And chances are you have plenty of friends that you're no longer friends with. And why is that? It's because one of you outgrew that relationship, right? You no longer were aligned, okay? They no longer were supporting you in your journey or vice versa even, right? Maybe you've been cut out by other people in the past, okay? So that's the first thing. Taking the opportunity to consciously create relationships, right, that are supporting you in your journey. Because I promise you, if you're after this mission of yours where you're trying to change your life, you're trying to, transform your identity, you're trying to achieve your goals, but you have people that are trying to keep you as the person over here that's the same, who's never changed, who's never accomplished anything, you're going to struggle. It's going to be difficult, right? And I don't want that to happen to you. So that's the first thing. You have to consciously create relationships in the environment around you, right? Just having that awareness is the first step, okay? And with that, consciously disconnect from those that are no longer supporting your journey, right? That's the first tip. Now, the second thing is maybe you live in an area where that is difficult to do, okay? Maybe you live in an extremely small town. The people that you're after are just not around, right? I know for me, when I was starting my entrepreneurship journey, I found it difficult to find others that were trying to do the same thing, start an online business, right? Many of my friends were working 9 to 5s. They were going to school. They were chasing a career, and I didn't align with any of it, right? I always had the entrepreneurship sort of mindset. I always knew that I wanted to, be my own boss. And then I found out I was like, I really want to work online so I can travel the world. I want to be able to take my work with me wherever I go, right? I don't want to have to travel for 1 month out of the year and then spend all my money there. I want to be able to work while I travel and do it year round, right? That's what I really wanted, right? That's the person that I was trying to identify as, okay? The person that I now identify as. But everyone around me was doing the 9 to 5 route, right? And it's difficult. It's difficult when you don't have people around you that are after the same goal, right? And, this is why people go to the gym together. This is why people have workout buddies. It's easier to find the motivation, to find the inspiration when you have other people going through the shit with you, right? If you're the only person struggling in your circle, right? If you're the only person going through the thing, I promise you it's going to be 10 times harder than if you're surrounded by a bunch of people all going through the same thing, all supporting and motivating and inspiring each other through the same thing. But if you can't find that circle where you're at in your physical location, wherever it is that you're at, you have to take radical responsibility and you have to start cultivating those relationships virtually, okay? So there's a few ways you can do that. Number one, obviously, these phones that we have are incredibly powerful. You can literally talk to anybody at any given time, anywhere in the world, right? So there really is no excuse. Obviously, it's not the same as an in-face, person-to-person connection, right? That is the most ideal. You can feel somebody's energy. You can really be there with them, right? But if that's not an option, you have to use other resources, right? So much of success is all about being resourceful, right? It's about resourcefulness, not necessarily having all the resources, but being resourceful, right? So paying attention to who you are friends with on Instagram and Facebook, who you follow on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and who you are watching, what books you're listening to, what podcasts you're listening to, right? Although you're not necessarily speaking with these people or being with them in person, you are still surrounding yourself with them, right? And that's what I did. I didn't have a circle of entrepreneurs or people that were trying to chase this online digital nomad lifestyle around me. Chances are I probably could have found them, right? But I didn't necessarily make it a priority to go out into the world and find them, right? And so what I did is because I was in my office all day long pretty much for the most part, what I did is I cultivated those types of relationships online, both Facebook, Instagram, and mostly through listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks and watching YouTube videos, right? Watching documentaries, things like that, just surrounding myself with like-minded people. Even though they had no idea I was watching them or listening to them, right? Even though I can't actually feel their presence or their energy, right? Even though we're miles apart, I'm still surrounding myself with them, with their mindset, with their identity, with their way of life, right? With their words of affirmation and motivation and inspiration, okay? And so if you're somebody right now who's struggling to find the environment that you're after in person, take radical responsibility to build that environment virtually, right? And with the way technology is these days, we are so lucky, right? If 30 years ago you tried to tell somebody it's impossible, okay? Right? If you 30 years ago were trying to improve your environment, you literally had to do it physically, and that was the only way, right? I guess they had books, maybe audio tapes and whatnot back then, but nowadays it is so much more accessible for us. You can jump on YouTube and watch anything you want, listen to any audiobook you want, any podcast you want, all with on your phone that's stuck in your pocket, right? There is no excuse. The third thing is you need to understand that you are a reflection of your environment and vice versa, okay? So if you are looking out into your environment right now, the people or the things that surround your life right now, you have to understand that you play a part in that, okay? For example, if you look around at all your friends and you notice that they have a toxic habit of gossiping, right? They're not really talking about ideas. They're not really talking about things that they're working on or goals or aspirations. They're gossiping about other people. If you notice that, chances are that's a reflection of you and how you have been in the past with them. Okay? The only reason why they're doing it around you or with you in the first place is because they feel safe. And the only reason why they feel safe is because chances are you've done it too in the past, right? And it's a vicious feedback loop. It's a vicious cycle. Because the more you gossip with them, right, the more you're lowering your environment's vibration. Now the more your environment lowers your vibration, right? So you can see how important it is to shift, to make that change. But you really need to understand that your environment is a product of you, and you are a product of your environment as well, right? You have likely played a role in what your environment looks like now. Like attracts like, right? So if you have friends in your circle right now that are not helping you propel you towards where you're trying to go, chances are you've played a role in that. Not chances are, you have played a role in that. You've agreed to let them do that, right? You've agreed to play a role in that. So I really encourage you, this last tip, I really encourage you to just sit with that. Look at the different ways in which you've played a role in that. Look at the habits or the actions that you've taken that have maybe led to your environment being at a lower vibration, right? Maybe encouraging everybody to go out and party on a Thursday, Friday night, whatever it is, right? When really you're trying to focus on your goals and get healthy, right? Look at all the ways that you've maybe inspired or motivate your friends to do something that today you wouldn't want to do anymore, okay? Because naturally people change. You may not be the same person you were 2 years ago. I hope that you're not, right? We're supposed to grow. We're supposed to evolve. But be honest with yourself. Look at the way that maybe you were in the past and how that led to, inevitably a detriment in your relationship with somebody. All right? I can think back to countless times where I was like, trying to level up my life, trying to transform my identity, trying to create this new version of myself. But yet at the same time, I had friendships, I had relationships around me who weren't necessarily the best influence on me. I kept them in my life anyway, and I made the problem worse by feeding into it, right? By doing the very thing that they would do to me, which is, encouraged to do something, i.e. go out and drink and stay up late and, not pay attention to goals or not pay attention to what I was working on in that moment, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to take your 20s and your 30s to party, you know what I mean? It's all about what you want and what you're after. But I'm assuming that you're after change. I'm assuming that you're after transformation, right? And if that's the case, then you need to take radical responsibility about crafting the right environment for yourself, in person, virtually, and understanding that it definitely has something and everything to do with yourself and what's going on internally, right? So understand that you've played a role in that. Now you get to forgive yourself. You get to let go of that, but now you get to move forward and you get to recreate, right? And I said at the beginning of this video, I promise you that if you actually implement these steps, you won't even recognize your life a year from now, right? But it's difficult. So many of us are afraid to do the very thing that I'm talking about right now. So many of us feel extremely uncomfortable to go to your friend and say, hey, you know what? I recognize that maybe we're just going in two different directions right now. And unfortunately, for me to achieve what I'm trying to achieve, I need to kind of spend less time with you, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but so many of us are afraid of doing it. But you need to. If this is what you want, that is the key word, if. If you are after a transformation, if you are after a shift in your life, you absolutely need to take radical responsibility when it comes to creating the environment that's going to support you in achieving whatever you're trying to achieve, okay? And if you can't do it in person, you have to do it virtually. Get resourceful, whether it's downloading a shitload of audiobooks and podcasts, listening to a bunch of YouTubes, making friends on Facebook and Instagram that are actually doing and being where you want to be and doing what you want to do. Unfollowing everybody on Instagram that posts nothing but silly stuff, right? Literally. Unfollow everybody other than 20 supportive, positive pages where you can just go on Instagram to get a quick jolt of inspiration and motivation, right? Instead of going on there and seeing silly content, right? And just understand and know that chances are you've played a role in that in the past. So now you get to look at what habits or what actions of mine in the past have I used to contribute to the very problem that I'm now facing, right? Because chances are you have contributed to it in one way or another. So I hope you guys found those tips helpful. I love you guys. I hope that everything that I just said resonated with you to the point in which you are actually willing to take action on it. Because this is very, very, very important. And like I said, it doesn't matter how driven, how focused, how positive, how strong your mindset is. If your environment isn't supporting you, it's going to take you a lot longer to actually achieve what you're after, right? I know for a fact that if I had moved to Bali sooner, where I would surround myself with like-minded entrepreneurs that were all after a very similar thing, that I would have been way more motivated. There were so many times when I was in my room working or in my office and I was lacking the motivation. I was lacking the motivation because my friends at 5 p.m. would leave, or they would go out and go drinking, or they would do this thing, and yet I was at home working by myself, not yet making any money, right? And feeling very alone. And so in those moments, it would be very hard for me to find the inspiration. You know, I'd have the negative self-thoughts or the negative doubts like, oh, can you even really do this? Is this even really possible? Right? So many thoughts will start to pop up. But had I been surrounded around the right environment, right, people that were doing the very thing that I was wanting to be doing, I would have had clear evidence in my life. This is possible, right? And chances are I would have even had support from them. Say, hey, you know what? You're so close. You're getting there. Just keep doing it. We're all struggling through it together, right? We're all working together. We're all staying home on a Friday night at 6 p.m. working together. While everybody else is out drinking and doing their thing and having fun, we're all doing this together, right? Because we have a shared vision in mind, right? It's extremely, extremely powerful. So please, please, please don't underestimate this. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, I love you guys. Peace, and I'll see you on the next video.